Let's do this. So, flight blades and components have been a bit of a topic over the last couple of weeks. And I imagine a lot of people are probably entering this talk expecting certain words and things to be said, things that rhyme with may, boo, kin, and spam. I don't honestly, I don't, just the first one. But that's not what this talk is about. I don't really even care about the pay to win argument when it comes to components. I mean, I kind of do, but I'm not concerned with winning. I don't need to win. I just want to shoot some NPCs sometimes, but for the most part, I just kind of want to vibe and live in the verse. So I don't care that much about other people spending money and getting something more than I have. In fact, that's not a problem to me at all. I'm not making any sort of argument or statement or stating my opinion about this for my own sake. We have an org. We have a channel where we can message to a lot of people and gather people and in-game money and stuff. Like, I'm not trying to benefit myself when I say that I think that components being sold for money is, I'm not even going to say the wrong choice. It's just a weird one. CIG needs to make their money. And the fact that people use that as an argument to people like me and a lot of other backers who have just been kind of obsessed with making sure that CIG succeeds and gets Star Citizen done, it's weird. It's not like we just woke up one day and we're suddenly like, CIG shouldn't get money anymore. They're past my mark now. Nope. You guys got to last on what you've got. I don't believe that. I think that they need to make their money. And as we've been covering all day today, they're making their money and we're happy for it. Good job at Invictus Week, folks. Just like, stick to ships. So one of the big reasons that I think this really caught people off guard was because nobody really thought that it was going to be a thing. Nobody expected it. The whole idea of flight blades wasn't even a conversation 4 weeks ago. I'm pretty sure if you searched for flight blades on Google, you wouldn't find any references before this first sort of talking about it right before Invictus, when it started showing up in the PTU basically for 411. And that was an exciting moment because blades have been a very, 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 very long topic in Star Citizen. Let me go to our usual repository here, Starchives, and you could just look up the word blades and maybe it'll embarrass me. Let's see. You can go back in videos and see that there have been mentions of, I don't even know. Let's see where they start talking about that. Blades of grass. Blades pop up. The blades. Bin and blades. Refueling, rearm, and repair your computer. Here we go. Let's listen to this.
Player. Yeah, there's a whole page about remote turrets and how we plan to allow players to essentially give AI control to them. So if you're a solo player, you probably want to take your computer, take out the blades that come with it by default, stick some remote control ones in there. Mm-hmm. So then those turrets are just automated defense and you can focus on doing repair.
Okay.
So this is 7 years ago. This is 2018. And it's not like this was mentioned and then forgotten. You can find more talks around here where they will have mentioned blades. The idea of blades comes from the idea of subcomponents in Star Citizen. So you then need to look up what they were talking about in terms of subcomponents and what these did for the game. Subcomponents are pretty easy to understand, but I'm going to use a very old design document, one that I said, do we even know if they work? This is the OG, right? This is how the game was presented in the beginning. Engineering, ship component systems. Ships are the heart of Star Citizen. Your personal ship will be the heart of your Star Citizen experience. It'll be your home, your mode of transport, your line of defense, Vandal raiders, and the dangers of vacuum itself. And what's more, it'll be an expression of your personal style and gameplay preferences. To accomplish all this, we spent a lot of time drilling down from the initial ship document that we released during the crowdfunding campaign. We've been working out what makes a ship, how ships can be upgraded, and how they balance against each other. There's still a lot of work to do, but we're far enough along that we wanted to give you a glimpse into how these systems would work. So they go on to basically describe how cannons would work, how lasers would work, how a ship would work. Then they move on to say, here's a look at some of the hard points and equipment that make up your ship. You have the hull, which is where you can mount additional armor for protection. reduce your mass for better handling, or modify your cross-section to limit your signature. And from there, they go into all the components: your power plant, your avionics, which they now call the computer, your thrusters, your shield generators, intake, fuel tank, more thrusters, all that kind of stuff. From there, they talk about your resource management. Basically, as you put components into your ship, it's not really the ship that's going to define what you need to do to keep it running. It's the components. It's what you've plugged into your hard points. It's what matters on your ship. One of the things they mention here is the CPU. This is a little bit related to the blades we talked about. Running the components on the ship require advanced circuitry and highly specialized software, all of which are grouped together under the ship's avionics system, the computer. These packages offer more robust targeting identification, increased radar range, ITTS, and many other functions. In addition, other ship systems require data resources for proper operation. Examples include operation for the gimbal-mounted Class 2 weapons and the AI systems for unmanned turrets, that being AI blades. Now, you can keep on going through all of this. There's quite a bit to it. They talk about the durability of these items. High output power plant is useless if it stops working from minimal wear. Every part of the game has a cost in credits that must be paid to purchase it. But just having the money isn't enough. Not all parts are available everywhere, and even the locations that normally sell certain items can be out of stock if the supply chain to the factory has been disrupted. Players will need to travel far and wide to locate all the parts they wish to install for these components. Starts to be a little bit weird when you can just buy them on the store and put them anywhere in the game. Tinkering with your ship is a huge interest to many people. We see this in the real world. There are huge communities around PC overclocking and in hobbyist automotive tuning on the weekends. I just want to say, the hobbyist automotive tuning was something I really used to be into, and we have a real common term there that I think is used in basically all industries. It's the sleeper. It's when you buy something that everybody looks at and says, what the f*** is that? Why is he bringing that out here? And then your boy actually has like the freaking 2JZ engine dropped in with a nice turbocharger and a great cat back exhaust uninstalled with no catalytic converter and great airflow. And they're just blowing people away in drag races. That's good times. Yeah, the Fondor Hallcraft. When they tractor beam him in, they're like, you can't do anything. And he just rips their freaking tractor beam apart. There's like a joy to that. And I think that's what they're getting at here. Customizing to get to the point where like you've done the work, you know what you're driving and other people don't. They say people just like knowing that they've squeezed every last drop of performance out of their gear. We know you'll want to push your ship to the limit, so we are including systems to let you try. And so they just keep going on talking about that. They get to the pipe system. This is basically resource management. This is where all of your resources are flowing in and out and all that kind of stuff. And I think there's one more document like this that talks about these parts and this stuff. Here we go. Subcomponents. Subcomponents provide additional benefits to the component they are attached to, allowing for further customization of a player's ship. They are divided into 3 categories, each providing specific areas of improvement. Now, this is really old. Not saying this is what they had planned for this whole time, but you can see that there are some things here that do make sense. So you're looking at subcomponents, right? A capacitor. That's a subcomponent we kind of know about. Capacitors help protect components by absorbing harmful or unwanted energy. There's your relay. Well, actually, that's your fuse. The component itself is the relay. The capacitor would be the fuse that we pull in and out. Or maybe it's the conduit, allowing the component to perform better for the same amount of power. The way they kind of phrase these is as upgrades to your ships, but the way we have them now in the game, they're additions that are required for components to run. So your fuse is a subcomponent that goes into your relay, which is a component. Our life support system is a component, and it will require subcomponents that you have to filter out and change in order for your ship to be producing oxygen. John Crew confirmed this last year. Blades are a subcomponent for the computer component. So they're all grouped in the same area here. These are all components and subcomponents, the customization factor of the ships that we've been getting. And they talk, again, more about how these subcomponents will work. They get into the details of it. And you can find a lot of references to this kind of stuff. So going back to the whole point of this, they have a lot of desire for components to be a central driving force in this game. In my mind, I always thought that they had this genius idea of, we're going to sell these ships, but between the fact that you need a certain amount of people to run that ship efficiently, you got to get some turret gunners maybe to defend you, or you could use an AI blade. The AI blades were like a really good sort of halfway point to give people a little bit more gameplay without forcing them to find people. But there was still this sense of like, you could get that big ship, but you can't use it to actually kill. You still got to get the people. Yeah, if you have the people, you're definitely at an advantage over somebody who has the money to buy the ship and not the people. But there's still friction there in allowing that ship to really be the best it can be. And I see the way that they're going with crafting, with upgrade tiers, with if you buy something, it's the bottom tier and you can get them upgraded, and that's why crafters exist. But I don't know. I don't know about that. I never actually circled back around to my initial thought. I'm so sorry. I was talking about how they released and the hype behind them, and like that they had introduced these blades. So all this time we've been hearing about ships. One of the biggest debates across Star Citizen this whole time has been, can you solo a ship or can you not? What is a solo a ship or a soloable ship? How is this going to work? And because so much was riding on this question, the idea that flight blades were being introduced with 4.1 got people real excited. It got hype huge. People were pumped. What's going on with blades? This is actually happening this early? And I think it was a really, really big bummer for people when they were like, I am so pumped for this. And then it came in and people couldn't access it. It was like literally only available in the store. And I know that they've said that they're not going to do that anymore, but I think that really hurt. I think that really hurt the hype behind one of the most questioned features in Star Citizen's history. And that sucks because blades are cool and this whole system is cool. And the way that I was hoping that it would all work, and I was starting to talk about before, was like, they're selling these ships for all this money, sure, but at the end of the day, it's still what you do in game, the connections you make in game, that defined how you actually used that ship, how you customized it. And I don't know, I feel like if you can get the components on the store, suddenly you just kind of, it's not just about you. It's not just the fact that you can get them on the store. If you're running an org and you are trying to earn a certain thing in the game, like you're trying to get a certain component for all your people in their ship, how do you incentivize people to take part in that activity outside of, hey, you guys can have fun? Because somebody can just come into your org event 2 hours before it happens and say, hey, I just bought these on the store. I could just pass them out and we can continue on with what we wanted to do. It's like, well, yeah, but I was kind of hoping that we could do something fun as an org. The crafting thing that I was talking about, the idea that like, if you are doing something to craft a certain component, let's say it's at the base level, it's not like it's any specific tier of component, but it's a certain power plant that's 200,000 credits. And it's 200,000 credits because we're playing on this in-game player-influenced economy where you're buying minerals from your friend who's charging you a certain amount, and then he's having his friend ship that stuff to you, and that costs a certain amount. And then you have your group of friends who are helping you make these power plants that you're going to sell, but you got to pay them because they're not getting paid by the plant. And so then you're finally like, okay, I'm ready to go, ready to pay. And this is all assuming that Star Citizen is going to turn out like Star Wars Galaxy that people are so excited about with player-run shops. But you open up your shop and you set your prices to cover the costs of everything that you just got, and you find out that somebody else is selling the same power plant like on the next planet over for a tenth of the price. How do you compete? How, like, if they're continuing to try and move this more and more towards a player affected economy, what happens when you're including a currency in the game that can't necessarily be earned in the game or like earned based on the game? And so the supply and demand of people's services, I feel like it also kind of gets thrown out of whack because, again, ships are one thing. Ships are definitely one thing, but those are a big purchase. That's getting down to the Atlas and some of the ground vehicles is one thing. But at a high level, a Corsair is like, that is a significant purchase that you know you have value that you can give to people. I just don't really see how we can do the same thing with these components on such a small scale. I didn't like, man, this was all so much better prepared in my mind. It's so hard to get out and do this unscripted. I think maybe I'll make a more scripted video about this so I can have my thoughts better put together. I'm just, I hate saying I'm worried and concerned. It's such an annoying thing to say. And I know people are probably hating this. This video is probably going to lose subscribers, but I don't care. This is about the game, you know? I could care less about how this affects me. I just want to know that the game's going to be okay. And I'm like, how do we introduce the actual progression of ships that we've really been thinking about and like talking about for a decade now? Suddenly it all gets flipped on its head because it's paid for. I don't even care if people think this isn't a big deal. That's fine. You can think it's not a big deal, but deep down, the deepest down, does this really feel like the same way it's been? Does this really feel like selling ships? Because at least what their thing has always been is that buying ships isn't pay to win, because it's still about what you do with those ships. What if we can buy commodities on the store? What if we can buy copper? Or what if you can buy a cooldown for your timer? What if we can spend money to get insurance timers decreased on the spot? How much of this stuff does need to be bought before people are like, maybe this will impact the way the game works? I'm not saying it's going to kill Star Citizen. I'm not saying it's the worst thing ever. I'm just saying the general direction of that, doesn't that kind of like just make you a little nervous that the system that they've built and wanted this game to depend on maybe won't work the same way because of that? I'm really not trying to like create anger. I just want us to think critically about the long-term possibilities of what this can do. Now, one final thing I want to talk about was, I don't even think I can find this, but I was talking to Algrid from the Inforunners, and he was saying that the first time components were added to the store was actually a long time ago. And this is hearsay. I can't confirm it. I don't know how I even would. But this was a long time ago in Star Citizen's history when they started adding stuff to the store. They added components at first, but he said, in his words, it felt like it was only to test their ability to be on the store, because they then took them off and components were never on the store again after that. So for some reason, they felt that components didn't need to be there, and they've never talked about power plants or quantum drives or any of that kind of stuff being on the store. Right now, it's more so, hey, CIG, you put flight blades on the store, which are subcomponents. Can you iterate a little? Can you tell us a little more about the plans? Are you planning on putting other components on the store? Maybe just blades? I think there's just, like most times, CIG is just not doing a good job with their communication surrounding this. I hope they have a good long-term plan for this game to work in terms of progression and in terms of the in-game economy actually working off supply and demand. I guess that's my 2 cents on it. This is something I forgot to say. With the whole additions of Wicklow coming in, they are actively acknowledging how valuable components will be. They're saying, we're going to throw these new additions into the game, and they're not going to be new ships or anything like that. They're going to be the same ships we've had, but we're going to give them top grade components. We're going to give you guys access to the Starlancer Max, the Firebird, the Peregrine, the Zeus, the Intrepid, all with top grade components, right? This is what you guys are working for in these patches. This is the progression. This is what you're really after. But then they're also putting components in the store. Now, I know they're just blades, but imagine if they had put these top grade components into the store at the same time that they're putting them into these ships coming from Wicklow. Do you think that this would have the same impact when it releases into the patch? That's where it would be headed, right? If they do start selling components, eventually you'll be like, well, why would I earn the special component ship in the game that I just grinded the reputation in the faction for or got the scripts for, when I could just get those components from, I don't know, the online shop? Or even better, you could just get them from your friend who bought them in the online shop. Like, there's no sense of, you got to go to that special star system. You got to meet that special person. You got to do that special thing. I think that was okay for ships, but for components, there's so much customization to be had there that it really starts eating into, I think, a system that they're actively introducing with the 4.1 branch of updates, but we'll see. I might make a video about this a little bit later towards the release of 4.2, but I imagine people probably want me and everyone else to shut up about it. Who cares? It's all just a big old journey of opinions anyways. I hope you don't have to agree with me. You don't have to like my opinion. I hope it at least just maybe got some other thoughts going in your head, and now we can move on to something more fun again.